Welcome to the introduction to Cycling the Camino de Santiago, Camino del Norte. This video is a review of the Camino del Norte and an introduction to my collection of 11 videos with authentic footage of the Camino de Santiago by bicycle. I completed the Camino del Norte in 14 days with 14 back-to-back stages. In the case of those 3 stages for which I haven't uploaded a corresponding video, I've added a brief summary in the following video for the corresponding stage. This video is going to answer any question you might have, as well as review every step of the journey across the northern Spain from Irun on the border with France to Santiago de Compostela. It is a video about a bike touring experience of 14 days, 14 back-to-back stages. It is not a bikepacking challenge or a race. It is not a video about the Camino del Norte by walking. If you plan to do the Camino del Norte by bicycle, I definitely invite you to watch the 11 videos I have created with a more thorough review of the situation on the ground, as well as, obviously, authentic footage of what the landscapes are like. I will review each of the 14 stages and leave a brief summary of what the stage was like. Finally, before we get started, don't forget to email me for any inquiries you might have. My email address can be found in the video description. Now, before I get started, how difficult actually is the Camino del Norte? The Camino del Norte has a length of 800 kilometers, more or less, and an elevation of 10,600 meters. It is not difficult. I saw many people doing it on electric bikes. However, if you plan to have a regular bike, it will require some previous training, assuming you're not trained already. The road is not flat, and there will be many hills and climbs that will require some degree of effort, physically speaking, and careful planning on how you plan to adjust the journey. 14 stages actually allow you to visit the most interesting points along the way and have stages that are not too difficult, not too easy. I would say don't start the Camino del Norte by bicycle unless you have at least a couple of months of previous and consistent training by bicycle. It does require some level of preparation, particularly if you plan to do some of the hardest climbs we have done. For example, you could watch stage number 12, as well as if you plan to do some of the unpaved trails that we have done along the way. Is it possible to do it in less than 14 days? Of course. However, I will not recommend you to spend less than 2 weeks. In my case, it was what it was available in terms of time, but you are going to enjoy your experience much more if you plan stops along the way. So this video will help you in understanding which locations make for a very good stop and which ones don't. Keep in mind the route is not flat by all means. In fact, there were very few completely flat parts that I can remember. Most of it was either rolling hills or climbs with different levels of gradient and different lengths. So with this in mind, let's get started by stage number 1. Stage number 1 started in Irun, very close to the border with France, basically on the border. That is where I got the bike for this trip. That is where I got it ready, I packed, and then I started. A stage of only 42.23 kilometers with an elevation of 636 meters. Before arriving in Zarautz, the destination of the first stage, the stage crossed San Sebastian, which is a fantastic city. It definitely needs to be visited if you haven't visited. I would recommend spending some time maybe before you start your journey if you arrive, as I would imagine, in San Sebastian. It should be noted that the initial part, as soon as you leave Irun, is not really nice. There is heavy traffic, and it's not always easy to find the direction for bicycles to San Sebastian. Once you reach San Sebastian, the conditions improve and it is very nice. Stage number 2 went from Zarautz to Lekeitio, a stage of 49.60 kilometers and an elevation of 565 meters. Of all the stages done, it is definitely the best stage that I remember. Lekeitio, the arrival, is a fantastic town. It's one of the most beautiful places I've seen in the entire Camino, of course, behind Santiago. From beginning to the end, the road was fantastic. There was very little traffic except maybe leaving Zarautz, and the landscape was incredible. You basically had the entire road just to yourself. Aside from Zarautz, a surfing paradise with a huge beach, and Lekeitio, of course, which deserves an entire break there to enjoy the place. Other 2 towns that deserve to be mentioned are Ondarroa, and Zumaya. I doubt my Basque pronunciation is correct, but I think you should be able to see the towns on the map. Stage number 3 brought us from Lekeitio to Bilbao, a stage of 58.69 kilometers with an elevation of 856 meters. The stage could be divided in two parts, the first from Lekeitio to Guernica, which is pretty much in the middle, and the second half Guernica to Bilbao. The first part was made of an initial uphill section. It was kind of technical in some points with maybe climbs of 15% gradients, but overall it was doable, and then a fast descent into Guernica. The second part was more boring, also in terms of landscape. Guernica deserves a stop. It's a town with a very important history in terms of Basque history, and you should definitely stop and visit the town. Bilbao deserves a separate mention because, in my opinion, it was a mistake entering in a big city. Of course, Bilbao is a fantastic city that has a lot to offer in terms of arts and architecture and such. But if you are going as you are with a bicycle, I can tell you that probably it's not a good idea to enter into the city. I don't regret going, but it was definitely a pain and boring to get into the city. Stage number 4 brought us from Bilbao to Laredo in Cantabria. It was another 5-on-5 stage, fantastic, and this is why. Leaving Bilbao, probably also because of Saturday morning and so there wasn't much traffic, but we had the luck of entering into a dedicated bike route only for bicycle, running separate from the highway or the freeway, whatever, for as long as 20 or 25 kilometers. According to the map, it starts from a neighborhood of Bilbao called Guruzeta, also known maybe as Cruces, and it arrives on the coast to a place on the sea called La Arena. Then from La Arena, which is still in the Basque Country, to Laredo, the destination, there was some hills, some climbs to do, but nothing too difficult. Overall, the landscape of the entire stage was fantastic. It was a stage of 62.31 kilometers and an elevation of almost 1,000 meters. So it will require some legs, but hopefully the day before, once you are in Bilbao, you have a chance of resting and eating enough and fueling for the rest of the journey. Stage number 5 brought us from Laredo to Santillana del Mar. It was the only stage entirely in Cantabria, a very small autonomous community. It was a stage of almost 64 kilometers with an elevation of 750 meters. There was nothing specific about this stage. The landscape was fine, not as fantastic as stage number 2 or stage number 4. We made the wise decision to stay away from Santander, where the traffic probably would have been a disaster or almost. And so it was a fairly uneventful stage. Roads are good. Like I said, the landscape is less good than what you have seen so far. Santillana del Mar makes a pretty nice town to stop. It has a historic center which is absolutely walkable, it's very easy. It's a nice place to stay if you have a chance. It has a really long history. I would recommend considering that as a stop. Stage number 6 brought us from Santillana del Mar in Cantabria to Llanes in the Asturias. A stage of 65.55 kilometers with an elevation of 836 meters. The landscape was, unlike the previous day, very nice. This is the part of the journey where the landscape starts becoming green. It's the part of Spain that it's called Green Spain due to the presence of green hills and forests basically everywhere. Llanes is a seaside town, a fishing village. It makes for a nice stop again on the sea after on the previous day veering off from the coast a little bit. There are, before you reach Llanes, 2 towns that are interesting to have a quick stop. They are still in Cantabria and they are Comillas, and the second is San Vicente de la Barquera. Stage number 7 brought us from Llanes to La Isla. It was a stage of 49.31 kilometers with an elevation of 607 meters. The stage was mostly rolling hills with no big elevation and 3 final climbs. The first of which was the toughest in terms of gradient. I think it had an average of over 11, or maybe an average of 11%, and a maximum gradient of 19%. The third of the climbs was not so steep, but it was longer. The stage was nice. It had a long 3-kilometer detour, which was sort of muddy because it was a day of heavy rain. As I enjoy gravel cycling, it was a lot of fun. But keep this in mind: if you don't want to get into an unpaved trail, plan your route accordingly. The town we picked as a destination, La Isla, is a very small spot. While we found a place to sleep, we didn't really find many options in terms of eating. So I will keep in mind when preparing the day, at least keep this in mind on the morning when you leave Llanes, or the previous day when you are preparing the following day stage. Stage number 8, from La Isla to Gijón. A stage of 53.24 kilometers and an elevation of 655 meters. A good third of the stage was flat. There were 3 climbs, one after 6 kilometers after leaving La Isla, and a 5-kilometer long climb which started in Villaviciosa. A majority of the stage was done on an inland route, except the part approaching Villaviciosa and of course the final part approaching Gijón. A medium-sized city, probably the biggest we have met up to this point, except San Sebastián or Bilbao, obviously. It was not difficult getting into the city center. In fact, it offers a good opportunity to refuel or find anything you need for your bike or for your clothing, but I will not stay more than one night. Stage number 9, from Gijón to El Pito. A stage of 65.18 kilometers and an elevation of 890 meters. It was one of the stages I liked the least. The reason was too much traffic, period. The periphery of Gijón, leaving the city, was not nice, obviously, and the entire area around Aviles was absolutely awful. It was heavily industrialized. There was heavy traffic with trucks and everything. The first 46 kilometers are initially rolling, then flat. In the final part, you get 3 climbs. They are challenging. There is the one approaching the Muros de Nalón on a public road with some traffic, so you'll need to share that. Some of other pilgrims we have met recommended Aviles. I have no doubt about that. We did not stop to visit it. However, keep in mind, it is a dangerous place to ride through with your bicycle. Near a place called Cabo Peñas, we also had a 1.5 or 2 kilometer long unpaved trail, which, as you already know, it was for me fun. Stage number 10, from El Pito to Luarca, a stage of 53.43 kilometers and accumulated elevation of 839 meters. A small note regarding El Pito, which was the destination of the previous day. The village does not have many options for eating, probably only 2, as it is a small village along the way. It was a rolling hill stage. However, after the bad experience on the previous stage with heavy traffic, this stage finally saw relaxing, quiet roads crossing the greenest part of the Asturias. You are here in the heart of the Asturias. So a lot of low altitude green hills, a lot of countryside, a lot of cows, and after a stage that is not long, you finally reach Luarca, which is a fantastic town. Is another of those very nice fishing town on the coast, one of the best I remember, together with Lekeitio. So you will definitely have a very nice opportunity to rest. Stage 11, from Luarca to Ribadeo. This is the stage where we eventually leave Asturias and we enter into Galicia. A stage of 51.84 kilometers and a total elevation of 574 meters. The stage was not difficult, however, I didn't particularly enjoy because of personal reason. I invite you to watch the video I have on this stage, number 11, that explains everything. Otherwise, road conditions, traffic, landscape, they were good. Not extraordinary, but good. Like I said, this was the last stage in the Asturias. Ribadeo is on the border between Asturias and Galicia, As you can see by now, Asturias is where you will spend the bulk of your Camino, depending on, of course, how you are going to manage your stops. It is a very large autonomous community. It's important to note that both Luarca and Ribadeo are very nice little towns. They offer great opportunities to rest and recover and eat very good food. In Ribadeo, you can definitely eat pulpo, octopus, which is a specialty in Galicia. There are places called pulperias where they specialize in grilled or steamed octopus. Keep also in mind that once you enter Galicia, all the towns where you are most likely to stop don't offer much in terms of entertainment or opportunities to eat, so you may want to take advantage of either Luarca and Ribadeo, or both, of course. Stage number 12, from Ribadeo to Vilalba. A stage of 73.64 kilometers with an elevation of over 1,300 meters. This was absolutely the most difficult and most technically demanding stage of all the 14 stages we have done. This is where the Camino veers south, leaves the coast and heads slowly into Galicia and towards Santiago de Compostela, which is only 3 stages away, including this stage. The first 30 kilometers are easy. The initial 25, are in fact flat. You will leave Ribadeo and soon reach Praia do Catedrais in Gallego, or Playa de las Catedrales in Castellano, which is a natural paradise. There's a part of the coast with a lot of hidden coves and cliffs, and it's just spectacular. Make sure you stop there, maybe have breakfast. Keep in mind though that if you plan to reach Vilalba, there is not a moment to lose. There's a lot of physical work to do before you reach Vilalba. In fact, after you start heading south, you will reach a town called Mondoñedo. It has a very nice but very small town center with a nice church. This is where the stage starts to become very difficult. This is where the toughest climb starts. A climb 10 kilometers long, of which at least one good third, maybe more, is on unpaved steep roads. If you can control your breathing and of course find a sustainable good pace, then it's fine, assuming you are in control of your bike. As I said, there will be parts that are steep. The landscape is, however, very nice. So you have the landscape to distract you and to take your mind off the fatigue that you are doing physically. Keep in mind also that the weather in Galicia is quite different from the other autonomous communities we have seen before, and it rains very frequently. We were lucky that it only started raining after we left the unpaved part. So after the climb ended, there was another 25 kilometers before we reached Vilalba. All this happened in heavy rain, so we were lucky. It's not difficult, however, landscape there is boring, and so it's one last effort you need to do before reaching Vilalba. Vilalba is an interesting town center, however, is very small. It has less to offer when compared to either Luarca or Ribadeo. Stage 13, from Vilalba to Sobrado, a stage of 48 kilometers and an elevation of 713 meters. It was a shorter stage than the others, but it happened right the day after a really tiring and difficult stage, which was stage 12 to Vilalba. While it was short, the stage was not easy for 2 reasons. First, it happened under heavy rain. Like I said, keep in mind in Galicia it basically rains most of the time. Second, there was a climb we underestimated, a climb that brought us up to 672 meters, which of course isn't much, but Galicia is not necessarily high. The hill's name was Pena do Can. The good thing is that after reaching the top of this climb, you then have a fast, straight descent with full visibility on any traffic, and there isn't much really coming up, so you can go down relaxing on the descent. Sobrado is a very small village. However, due to its proximity to Santiago de Compostela, it has a lot of pilgrims and a lot of options for pilgrims in terms of sleeping and eating. It only has a monastery which deserves a visit, also offers accommodation, by the way, but the village does not really have much else to offer. Stage 14, the last, from Sobrado to Santiago de Compostela, a stage of 54.24 kilometers and an elevation of 606 meters. The stage could be divided in two parts. The first, crossing forest, it was quite nice. There were two sections that were unpaved. The second part, as you get closer to Santiago, starts to show what I felt was the ugly periphery of Santiago. It was really not nice. There were some factories, and it takes some mental adjustments until you finally realize that you made it and you are in Santiago. Once you reach the city, it wasn't exactly clear finding the way to the cathedral. Obviously, that's where you want to go. We had to stop and look at the map and plotting our way right to the cathedral. Just to give you a sense of how the weather changes during the Camino, at least the Camino del Norte, keep in mind that we started with maybe 25 degrees in the Basque Country, and once we reached Santiago, there were 14 degrees. At the beginning, all initial stages were sunny or overcast but dry, whereas it basically rained the entire time in the last stages. Once you reach Santiago, enjoy the moment, enjoy the sense of spiritual and physical accomplishment of what you did. Spend time in the city, relax, recover, rest, visit all that this beautiful city has to offer. Do not make the mistake of leaving immediately or the day after. Spend some time to decompress and take in all the great experience that you have just done. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.